The screams echoed across 3-star systems. On the planet Helia Prime, 12-foot-tall monsters walked through burning cities. Their bodies looked like living crystals, sharp and deadly. Each step they took cracked the ground beneath them. Their claws could cut through steel like paper. Their eyes glowed red in the smoke and fire. These were the Vorthok. For 3,000 years they had been the most feared creatures in the galaxy. Every species that met them either died or became their slaves. They fed on fear itself, growing stronger when others were afraid. Warlord Dekmer stood on top of a fallen building, watching his warriors hunt. He was the biggest of all Vorthok, standing 15 feet tall. His crystal body was covered in scars from 1,000 battles. Each scar told the story of another world conquered, another species destroyed. The Helians cry so beautifully, he said to his second-in-command, Hunter Valthor. Their fear tastes sweet. Below them, small blue-skinned Helians ran through the streets. They had been a peaceful people who loved art and music. Now their cities burned. Their children hid in basements, while Vorthok warriors smashed through walls looking for them. The Helians had tried to fight back. Their weapons did nothing. Laser beams bounced off Vorthok crystal skin. Explosions only made the monsters laugh. The Helians' fear made the Vorthok stronger and faster. How many worlds is this now? Velthar asked. 237, Dekmar replied. Each one easier than the last. This was always how it went. The Vorthok would arrive in their bioships. The ships looked like giant sea creatures, with tentacles and teeth. They would land on a world and release the warriors. The local people would try to fight. They would fail. Then they would run and scream and beg. This made the Vorthok happy. On the other side of the galaxy, Admiral Yuki Tanaka sat in her command center on the space station Terra base. She was reading reports from the Helian colonies. Each report was worse than the last. Colony 7 has gone silent, her assistant told her. Colony 8 is requesting immediate evacuation. Yuki closed her eyes. The Helians had asked Earth for help 6 months ago. Humanity had sent supplies and medical aid, but no soldiers. Earth's policy was to not get involved in alien wars. Most humans had never even seen another species. What about the Centaurian? Defense Corps, Yuki asked. They have the biggest fleet in this sector. They tried to fight the Vorthok last week, her assistant said quietly. 300 ships attacked one Vorthok bioship. Only 12 Centaurian ships escaped. Yuki felt sick. The Centaurians were professional soldiers with advanced technology. If they could not stop the Vorthok, what could? The communication system beeped. A hologram appeared showing a Hellion with burns covering half his face. He was crying. Please, the Hellion said.
Oh.
Anyone who can hear this? The monsters are coming to the outer colonies next. They will not stop. They never stop. Someone must help us. The message ended. Yuki stared at the empty space where the hologram had been, far away from the war and the screaming. On a small mining station near the edge of known space, June was having a very normal day. He walked through the station's lower levels, checking pipes and power cables. His uniform was clean but worn. His tools were old but worked perfectly. He'd been doing this job for 8 years. He was good at it. Mining station was called Outpost 47. It was built inside a large asteroid. 3,000 people lived there, mining rare metals to send back to Earth. Most of the workers were human. But there were also some Helians who had come looking for work. June stopped at Junction Box 15C. The power readings looked wrong. He opened the panel and found a burned wire. It's not dangerous, but it would cause problems later if he did not fix it now. He pulled out his tools and got to work. This was what June liked about his job. Problems had solutions. If something was broken, you could fix it. If a system was not working right, you could make it work right. It was simple. Hey June, called Minho, the station's security chief. Did you hear the news from the inner systems? No, June said, not looking up from his work. What news? Some kind of monsters are attacking colonies? Really bad stuff? June finished, connecting the new wire. That's terrible, he said, but it's very far away from here. Minho nodded. Yeah, nothing for us to worry about. Captain Hannah was in the station's command center, reading the same reports that Admiral Yuki had seen. Unlike June, she was very worried the Vorthok were moving toward the Outer Rim territories. If they kept going in the same direction, they would reach human space in 2 weeks. She called a meeting with her senior staff. Dr. Nara from the medical bay came, along with Communications Officer Day and a few others. They sat around a small table and looked at star maps. The Vorthok have destroyed 15 colonies in the past month, Hannah said. They're moving this way, but we're so far out here, said Day. Why would they come to a little mining station? Because that's what they do, Dr. Nara said. I've been reading about them. They don't stop. They attack everything they find. The room was quiet for a moment. What can we do? Asked Minho. We can run, Hannah said. Pack up the station and head back toward Earth. That would take weeks. Day pointed out, and we'd have to leave all the mining equipment behind. While the senior staff worried about monsters they had never seen, June finished his repairs and moved on to the next job. The air recycling system in Section 7 was making strange noises. Probably just a loose fan blade, but he should check it anyway. As he walked through the quiet corridors, June thought about what Minho had said. Monsters attacking colonies. It sounded like something from a movie. Real life was usually much more boring than movies. He found the air recycling unit and opened the maintenance panel. Just as he had thought, one of the fan blades was loose. He tightened the screws and the noise stopped. Problem solved? In space. 3 days away from Outpost 47, the Vorthok war fleet moved through the darkness between stars. Their bioships pulsed with alien life. Inside the largest ship, Warlord Dekmer studied maps of the Outer Rim territories. What is in this sector? He asked his navigator. Small settlements, mining operations, nothing important. Good, Dekmer said. We will practice on them before we attack the larger human worlds. He had heard about humans. They were supposed to be clever and dangerous. But the Mer had heard that about other species too. In the end, they all screamed the same way. The Vorthok fleet adjusted course toward Outpost 47. The alarm started screaming at 0600 hours. Captain Hannah jumped out of bed and ran to the command center. The main screen showed 3 massive shapes moving toward Outpost 47. They looked like giant sea monsters with tentacles and glowing eyes. Vorthok. Bioship's Communications Officer Day said, his voice shaking. 3 of them, they'll be here in 2 hours. Hannah's heart pounded. She had hoped they would have more time. She pressed the station-wide announcement button. All civilians report. To evacuation shuttles immediately. This is not a drill. All civilians to evacuation shuttles now. Throughout the station, people dropped what they were doing and ran. Families grabbed their children and headed for the shuttle bays. Workers left their tools where they lay. Everyone had practiced this drill, but no one thought they would ever need it. In the lower levels, June heard the announcement while he was checking the water recycling system.
Ow.
He looked at his work tablet. The system was running at only 60% efficiency. If he did not fix it soon, the station would have water problems in a few days. He started taking apart the main filter unit. Security Chief Minho found him 20 minutes later. June. What are you doing? We have to evacuate. The water system is broken, June said, holding up a dirty filter. If I don't fix this, 3,000 people won't have clean water. June, there are monsters coming. Giant space monsters that eat people. June looked at the filter again. It was completely clogged with mineral deposits. That's bad, he said. But this filter is also bad. I can fix this. Can't fix monsters. Minho stared at him. You're staying? Someone has to keep the life support running? June said. Evacuation will take 6 hours. People need air and water for 6 hours? In the command center, Captain Hannah watched the evacuation progress. Half the civilians were already on shuttles. But the process was slow. Too slow. Captain, said Dr. Nara from the medical bay. I'm staying too. Some people are too sick to move. I can't leave them. I'm staying, said Technician Kai from engineering. Someone needs to help June with the power systems. One by one, the senior staff decided to stay. They would keep the station running while the civilians escaped. The Vorthok bioships arrived, right on schedule. Warlord Dekmer stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the small mining station. It was built inside an asteroid, with metal towers and communication arrays sticking out like needles. "How many life forms?" he asked. "Approximately 1,000 still aboard," his scanner operator reported. "The rest have fled in small ships." Dekmer smiled, showing teeth like broken glass. "Good. The ones who stayed will be the bravest. Brave ones taste better." He turned to Hunter Velthor. "Take a boarding party. Make them scream." Velthor nodded. He was 12 feet tall with crystal skin that reflected the ship's lights. His claws were sharper than swords. He had killed thousands of beings across the galaxy. He chose 20 warriors to go with him. The bioship extended a tentacle that punched through the station's outer hull. The Vorthok warriors crawled through it like ants through a tunnel. Captain Hannah and her security team were waiting for them. "Remember," she said into her radio, "we just need to buy time for the last shuttles to escape. Hold them as long as you can." The Vorthok burst through the airlocks like a nightmare made real. They were huge, covered in sharp crystal armor, with glowing red eyes. They roared as they charged, and the sound made the metal walls shake. The humans opened fire. Their weapons did almost nothing. Bullets bounced off crystal skin. Energy beams were absorbed and made the monsters stronger. "Fall back," Hannah shouted. "All teams fall back." The Vorthok enjoyed the hunt. They moved slowly through the station, letting the humans run ahead of them. Fear was like fine wine to the Vorthok. They wanted to savor it. Hunter Velthar found the first human cowering behind a supply crate. The human was young, maybe 20 years old. He was crying and shaking. "Please," the human said. "I don't want to die." Velthar leaned down close. He breathed out, and his breath was like poisonous gas that made people afraid. The human's fear doubled. His heart nearly stopped from terror. This was what Velthar lived for. Raised his claws to finish the human quickly. There were many more to hunt in the lower levels. June was installing the new water filter when the lights went out. Emergency power kicked in a few seconds later, bathing everything in red light. June heard gunfire and shouting from the upper levels. Yes! The monsters had arrived. He looked at his work. The filter was half installed. If he stopped now, the water system would fail completely. If he kept working, he could finish in 10 minutes. June kept working. Heavy footsteps echoed in the corridor outside. Something big was walking through the station. June heard metal bending and breaking. Whatever was out there was very strong. The footsteps stopped outside the water recycling room. June looked up from his work as the door exploded inward. Metal pieces flew across the room. Through the smoke and dust, a shape appeared. It was the biggest thing June had ever seen. 12 feet tall, covered in crystal armor that sparkled in the red emergency lights. Its eyes glowed like hot coals. Its claws were longer than June's arms. Hunter Velthar stepped into the room expecting to find another terrified human. Instead, he found a man in a work uniform, kneeling next to some kind of machine. The human looked up at him with calm, tired eyes. "Are you here about the mining rights dispute?" June asked. "'Cause I'll need to see some paperwork first." Velthar stopped moving. In 3,000 years of conquest across 237 worlds, no being had ever responded to his presence with anything but terror. Creatures had begged, screamed, fainted, or tried to run. Many had died of fear before he even touched them. But this small, soft human was asking about paperwork. Velthar activated his fear projection. It was a telepathic ability that all Vorthok had. It sent waves of pure terror into the minds of other creatures. He had used it to paralyze entire armies. June felt something strange in his head for a moment, like a headache starting. Rubbed his temples. "Look, I'm sorry, but I'm really busy right now," June said. "The water system is broken and I need to fix it before people get sick. If you want to file a complaint about the mining operation, you need to talk to Captain Hannah. Her office is on level 5. Velthar tried his fear projection again, stronger this time. Some humans in the past had been resistant to telepathic attacks, but no creature was completely immune. The strange feeling in June's head got a little stronger. He looked at Velthor with the same expression he used when a machine was making weird noises. "Are you having some kind of medical problem?" June asked. "Dr. Nara's in the medical bay. She can help you. But first, do you have your safety certification? You can't be in the engineering areas without proper certification." Velthor's mind went blank. Safety certification? In his entire life, no one had ever asked him for safety certification. He was a warrior of the Vorthok Dominion, whose death itself walking on crystal legs. He was the nightmare that entire civilizations told stories about, and this human wanted to see his paperwork. June went back to installing the water filter. "I really need to finish this," he said. "If the water system fails, everyone on the station could get poisoned. That would be a safety violation. Big fine from the mining company." Velthor stood there, 12 feet tall and covered in armor that had never been scratched by any weapon, watching a human worry about water filters and safety fines. For the first time in his 1,000-year life, Hunter Velthor of the Vorthok Dominion felt confused above them. The battle raged through the station's corridors. Humans ran and screamed while Vorthok warriors hunted them. Captain Hannah's team was being pushed back level by level, but in the water recycling room, everything was quiet except for the sound of June's tools as he worked to fix a broken filter. Completely ignoring the most feared predator in the galaxy, Velthor sent a telepathic message to his commander. "Warlord Dekmer, I have found something strange." The message from Hunter Velthor confused Warlord Dekmer. "What do you mean, strange?" the warlord demanded through their telepathic link. "The human shows no fear," Velthor replied. "He asked me for paperwork." Dekmer was standing in the main cargo bay of Outpost 47. Around him, his warriors were herding captured humans into groups. The humans were crying and shaking, which was normal. Their fear fed the Vorthok and made them stronger. But one human was not afraid. This was impossible. "Bring this human to me," Decamore ordered. In the water recycling room, June had finished installing the new filter. The system was running at 95% efficiency now. Much better. "Okay," he said to Velthor, who was still standing in the doorway looking confused. "The water problem is fixed. Now, about your safety certification. Do you have Form 7B? That's the one for non-human visitors in engineering areas." Velthor had never heard of Form 27B. He had never heard of any forms. When the Vorthok wanted something, they took it. When they wanted to go somewhere, they went there. No one had ever asked them for permission. "I do not have forms," Velthor said slowly. "That's a problem," June said. He pulled out his work tablet and started typing. "I'll have to file a safety violation report." "What's your name?" "I'm Hunter Velthor of the Vorthok Dominion," the Crystal Warrior said. "I have conquered 1,000 worlds." "Okay," June typed the name into his tablet. "And your employee ID number?" Velthor stared at him. "Employee ID number? Everyone working on the station needs an ID number. It's regulations. How else do we track your safety training?"
Great.
Hunter, who had terrified entire star systems, felt his mind breaking a little bit. "I do not work here. I am here to kill you." June looked up from his tablet. "Oh, are you from the demolition company? Because the contract says you're not supposed to start tearing down Section 7 until next month?" "No, I am not from a company. I am a warrior. I kill and destroy." "Well, you can't do that without proper permits," June said reasonably. "Demolition work is very dangerous. You need at least 40 hours of safety training first." Velthor felt something he had never experienced before. It was like his brain was trying to understand two different languages at the same time. This human was treating galactic conquest like a paperwork problem.
Ass.
"You will come with me," Velthor said finally. "My warlord wants to see you." "Sure," June said. "But first, let me lock out the water system. Safety protocol. Can't leave it running. Unsupervised." He spent 5 minutes properly shutting down the equipment while Velthor waited. The Crystal Warrior could have grabbed the human and carried him away, but something stopped him. Maybe it was the human's complete calm. Maybe it was the way he treated everything like it was just another job to do. They walked through the stations. Corridors together. June looked around at the damage the Vorthok had caused. "This is going to take forever to clean up," he said. "Someone's going to have to file insurance claims for all this." The main cargo bay was full of Vorthok warriors and human prisoners. Captain Hannah was there with her hands tied behind her back. So were Dr. Nara, Communications Officer Day, and about 50 other people who had not escaped on the shuttles. In the center of the room stood Warlord Dekmer. He was 15 feet tall, bigger than any of his warriors. His crystal body was covered in scars that glowed with inner light. Each scar represented a world he had conquered, a species he had destroyed. His eyes burned red like dying stars. When the human prisoners saw him, they gasped and backed away. Some started crying harder. One man fainted. This was the reaction that Kmar expected and enjoyed. But when June walked into the room, he just looked around and sighed. "This is a safety nightmare," June said. "Way too many people in one space. Fire codes allow maximum 60 people in a room. This size, we've got at least 80. Dekmar stepped forward. When he moved, the floor shook. His presence filled the room like poison gas. Every human could feel the weight of his evil, the promise of death that followed him everywhere except for June, who was counting people and making notes on his tablet. "I am Warlord Dekmer," the crystal giant announced. His voice was like rocks grinding together. "I have destroyed civilizations. I have made entire species extinct. I am death itself." "Nice to meet you," June said, not looking up from his tablet. "I'm June from engineering. Are you in charge of this group?" "Because I need to talk to someone about the safety violations." Cargo bay went completely quiet. Dekmer activated his fear aura. It was a psychic weapon that could make brave warriors wet themselves in terror. The power of it filled the room like a thick fog of pure nightmare. All the human prisoners felt it. They screamed and tried to crawl away. Some of them curled up in balls on the floor, too afraid to move. June felt a slight headache and rubbed his forehead. "Is there a gas leak in here?" he asked. "I'm getting a weird smell. Might be dangerous. We should probably ventilate this area." X-Fear aura was so strong that it had once made an entire planet surrender without a fight. But this human thought it was a gas leak. The warlord tried again, pouring more power into his psychic attack. The fear energy was so intense that it made the metal walls shake. Several humans passed out from terror. June's headache got a little worse. He looked around the room with the same expression he used when trying to find a squeaky pipe. "Definitely. A gas leak," he said. "This could be a carbon monoxide problem. Everyone should evacuate until I can check the air filtration system." Dr. Nara, even though she was terrified, could not help but be amazed. She had studied alien psychology for years. She knew that fear was universal among all species. June was immune to the most powerful fear weapon in the galaxy. Dekmer was starting to panic. For 3,000 years, fear had been his greatest weapon. It was how the Vorthok controlled other species. It was the foundation of their entire civilization. But this human was immune to fear. Not resistant. Not brave. Actually immune. He treated cosmic horror like a maintenance problem. "You will kneel before me," Dekmer roared. "I can't kneel right now," June said. "Bad back. Occupational injury. But I can sit if you want to have a meeting." The warlord raised his massive claws. Each one was 3 feet long and could cut through. Starship armor. He brought them down toward June's head. June looked up and frowned. "Whoa. Careful with those. Are they sharp?" "You need to have blade guards on anything that could cause cuts." "OSHA regulations." Dekmer stopped his claws inches from June's face. "OSHA, Occupational Safety and Health Administration," June explained. "They make the rules about workplace safety. Those claws could really hurt someone if you're not careful. Want them?" "To hurt someone?" Dekmar screamed. "I want them to hurt you?" "Well, you can't," June said firmly. "Not without filing the proper forms first. Intentional workplace injury is a serious violation. Could result in heavy fines and criminal charges." Around the room, Vorthok warriors looked at each other in confusion. Their entire worldview was based on strength and fear. The strong took. What they wanted from the weak obeyed because they were afraid. But this human was not obeying, and he was not afraid. Instead, he was lecturing their supreme warlord about workplace safety. Security Chief Minho, even though his hands were tied, tried to help. "June," he whispered. "These are the monsters I told you about. They want to kill us." "I know," June whispered back. "But they're doing it all wrong. No safety gear, no proper documentation, no environmental impact assessment. Hey, this is the worst demolition job I've ever seen." Beckmer heard the whispered conversation. His rage was growing beyond all control. No creature had ever spoken to him this way. No being had ever treated him like an annoying bureaucrat. "I challenge you to single combat," the warlord bellowed. "I will tear you apart with my bear claws." June considered this. Combat in the workplace requires safety protocols. Do you have liability insurance? What about medical coverage for injuries? And we'll need witnesses to sign waivers. WHAT. Also, June continued, we'll need to clear the area first. Can't have spectators too close to the action. Safety hazard. Someone should probably call the station's insurance company to report the incident before it happens. Deckmer felt his sanity slipping away. Across the galaxy, species had begged him for mercy. They had offered him treasures and slaves and entire worlds if he would spare them. But this human wanted him to call an insurance company. The other Orthoc warriors were whispering among themselves. They had never seen their warlord so confused. They had never seen any creature treat that Kamar like he was just another person with paperwork problems, and deep in their crystal hearts, they began to feel something they had never felt before. The news spread across the galaxy faster than light. On the planet Centaurus Prime, Admiral Yuki Tanaka received an emergency message from Outpost 47. The message was from Communications Officer Day, who was broadcasting on a hidden frequency while the Vorthok were distracted. "The monsters are here," Day whispered into his communicator. "But something weird is happening. One of our engineers is arguing with their leader about safety forms." Admiral Yuki stared at the message. "Safety forms? Against the Vorthok?" She called. "An emergency meeting with Earth's top scientists and military leaders." The hologram conference room filled with worried faces from across human space. "Let me understand this," said Dr. Kim from the Xenopsychology Institute. "A maintenance worker is treating the galaxy's most dangerous predators like a paperwork problem?" "That's what the report says," Yuki replied. "The Vorthok's fear weapons aren't working on him." "That's impossible," said General Park from Earth Defense. "Fear is universal. Every species in the galaxy feels fear." Dr. Kim was quiet for a moment, thinking she had studied human psychology for 30 years. "Maybe not," she said slowly. "Humans evolved differently from other species." She pulled up brain scans on the main screen. Most species develop simple fight-flight responses. When they see danger, they either attack or run away. But humans developed a third option. "What third option?" Yuki asked. "We think," Dr. Kim said. "When humans face a problem, our brains try to understand it and find a solution. We evolved to stay calm under pressure so we could figure things out." On the screen, she showed brain activity patterns. When a human sees danger, part of their brain actually gets more active, not less. They start analyzing the situation instead of panicking. General Park shook his head. "But the Vorthok have conquered hundreds of worlds. Surely some of those species could think too." "Not like humans," Dr. Kim said. "We're the only species that evolved on a planet where thinking was more important than running. Earth was so dangerous that the humans who survived were the ones who could solve problems while being chased by predators." Back on Outpost 47, the standoff continued. Warlord Deckmer paced around the cargo bay like a caged animal. His crystal armor scraped against the walls, leaving deep scratches in the metal. He'd never been so frustrated in his life. "Fear me," he roared at June. "Every creature fears me." June was sitting on a supply crate, filling out forms on his tablet. "I can't fear you until you complete the proper documentation," he said. "How do I know you're really a dangerous monster?" "You could be anyone. Identity fraud is a serious crime." "Identity fraud?" This voice cracked. "Sure. Anyone could put on crystal armor and claim to be a space warlord. I need to see some official identification. Driver's license, passport, something like that. Hunter Velthor stepped forward. Warlord, perhaps we should simply kill them all and leave. No, Deckmer snapped. I will not be defeated by paperwork. I will make this human fear me. But as the hours passed, more problems appeared. Dr. Nara had been watching everything carefully. Even though her hands were tied, she was taking mental notes about Vorthok behavior. What she saw worried her. The Crystal Warriors were getting nervous. They kept looking at each other and whispering in their alien language. Some of them seemed confused. A few looked almost ... scared. Captain Hannah, Dr. Nara whispered. I think the Vorthok are having psychological problems. Do you mean? Hannah whispered back. Their entire society is based on fear, Dr. Nara explained quietly. They rule through terror, but June isn't afraid of them. It's breaking their understanding of how the universe works. Security Chief Minho overheard them. You mean June is winning? Not winning exactly, Dr. Nara said, but he's doing something they can't handle. He's treating them like normal people instead of monsters. Meanwhile, June had finished his paperwork and stood up. Okay, I've filed the initial safety violation report. Now we need to do a full workplace inspection. A what? Dekmar asked weakly. Workplace inspection. These premises are clearly unsafe. Broken walls, no safety railings, sharp objects everywhere without proper warning signs. Someone could get hurt. June walked over to where a Vorthok warrior was standing. The warrior was 8 feet tall, with claws like swords. He had personally killed thousands of beings. Excuse me, June said politely. Those claws look very sharp. Do you have protective sheaths for them? The warrior stared down at the small human. Protective sheaths. Yes. Exposed blades are a safety hazard. What if you accidentally cut yourself? Or someone else? Workers' compensation claims would be huge. The warrior looked at his claws. He had never thought about accidentally cutting himself. The claws were weapons, not tools. But this human was making them sound dangerous in a completely different way. I do not have sheaths, the warrior admitted. That's a violation, June said, making a note on his tablet. Class 3 safety infraction. You'll need to attend a safety seminar before you can return to work. Around the room, other Vorthok warriors started looking at their own claws with worry. If claws were dangerous, what about their crystal armor? What about their telepathic abilities? Were those safe? That Khmer watched in horror as his army began to doubt themselves. These were warriors who had never questioned anything. They killed, they conquered, they moved on. But now they were worried about safety seminars. Is madness, the Khmer screamed. We are the Vorthak. We do not attend seminars. Everyone attends seminars, June said reasonably. Continuing education is very important. Else do you stay up to date with the latest safety regulations? Communications Officer Day, who had been quietly recording everything, managed to send another message to Admiral Yuki. The monsters are asking about workers' compensation, he whispered into his hidden communicator. On Earth. Dr. Kim was studying the reports from Outpost 47. What she was seeing amazed her. The Vorthok psychological profile is breaking down, she told Admiral Yuki. They're a predator species. Their entire identity is based on being the scariest thing in the galaxy. But humans aren't treating them as scary. So what happens now? Yuki asked. I don't know, Dr. Kim admitted. This has never happened before. A species that rules through fear has met a species that doesn't understand fear the same way. Back on the station, June was now conducting a full safety inspection of the Vorthok warriors. He had a clipboard and was checking items off a list. Helmet, he asked one warrior. I do not wear a helmet, the warrior replied. Head protection is required in construction zones, June said. That's another violation. But my skull is made of crystal, which is harder than your metals. Doesn't matter. Regulations are regulations. What about safety glasses? The warrior touched. His glowing red eyes. I do not understand. Eye protection. What if something flies into your eyes? Could cause permanent damage. The warrior had never considered this possibility. His eyes were weapons that projected fear. But what if something did fly into them? Where do I get safety glasses? The warrior asked nervously. Warlord Dekmer felt his world collapsing. His greatest warriors were asking about safety equipment. They were worried about workplace injuries. They were acting like employees. But the worst part was June himself. The human showed no fear, no respect, no understanding that he was facing the most dangerous beings in the galaxy. He treated cosmic horror like a minor administrative problem. Fight me, Thekmer demanded one more time. Single combat. Our winner takes all. June looked up from his safety inspection. I told you, we need proper documentation first. Liability waivers, medical clearance, safety equipment inspection, and someone needs to check your insurance coverage. I do not have insurance. Then we can't fight, June said simply. What if? You get hurt? Who pays the medical bills? What if there's property damage? This could bankrupt the station. Dekmar stared at him. In his 1,500 years of life, no one had ever worried about his medical bills. The Crystal Warlord, conqueror of 237 worlds, sat down heavily on the floor and put his head in his hands. I do not understand, he said quietly. How do humans work? The challenge was broadcast across the entire galaxy. Every species with a communication system received the signal. The Centaurians, the Helians, the survivors of 200 conquered worlds, they all watched as the most feared warlord and known. Space faced a human maintenance worker in single combat. Admiral Yuki watched from Earth's command center. The video feed showed Outpost 47's main cargo bay, now cleared and marked off like a fighting ring. June had spent 3 hours setting up proper safety barriers and posting warning signs. This is incredible, said Dr. Kim. A human is about to fight the Vorthok warlord, and he's more worried about safety protocols than dying. On the space station, June was reviewing his checklist one more time. Okay, he said to Warlord Dekmer. I filed the combat permit application. Dr. Nara has signed off on medical clearance for both participants. The fighting area is properly marked. All spectators are behind safety barriers. Dekmar stood 15 feet tall in the center of the ring. His crystal armor gleamed under the lights. His claws were sharper than any sword. He'd killed thousands of warriors in personal combat, but he looked tired, confused. The past day of dealing with human bureaucracy had drained him more than any battle. Are we ready to fight now? He asked hopefully. Almost June said, just need to go over the safety rules. Safety rules? June pulled out a laminated card. Standard workplace combat regulations. No attacks to the eyes or throat. No use of weapons not approved by safety inspection. Combatants must wear appropriate protective gear. Protective gear. His voice was getting higher. I brought you a hard hat, June said, holding up a yellow construction helmet. It might not fit perfectly, but it's better than nothing. Around the ring, Vorthok warriors watched their supreme leader being offered a hard hat. Some of them were taking notes. They had started asking each other about safety equipment for their own weapons. I do not need a hat. This Mer screamed. Regulations are regulations, June said firmly. No hat, no fight. Dr. Nara, who was acting as the medical observer, tried not to laugh. Even though she was terrified of the Vorthok, she could see what was happening. June was not just immune to their fear weapons. He was accidentally destroying their entire culture. The Vorthok ruled through strength and terror, but June treated them like any other workers who needed to follow safety rules. He was turning galactic conquest into a workplace compliance issue. The Khmer grabbed the hard hat and jammed it onto his head. It looked ridiculous on his massive crystal skull, but he was desperate to fight. Combat was the only thing that made sense to him anymore. Now we fight, he declared. Wait, June said. I need to start the timer for the safety observation period. Hey! What? Someone has to watch the fight and make sure no one gets unnecessarily hurt. If there's a serious injury, we have to stop immediately and call for medical help. Dekmer stared at him. But ... the point of fighting is to hurt each other. Oh yes, but only within acceptable limits, June explained. You don't want anyone to get permanently disabled. That would be a lawsuit waiting to happen. The warlord felt his sanity slipping away again. He was trying to have a death match, and the human was worried about lawsuits. Begin. Detmer roared and charged forward. He was incredibly fast for something so large. His claws cut through the air with enough force to slice through steel. Any normal creature would have been killed instantly, but June was not normal. As the massive crystal warrior rushed toward him, June's brain did what human brains had evolved to do. Instead of panicking, he analyzed the problem. Detmer was big and strong, but he was also top-heavy. His center of gravity was high. His crystal armor made him rigid, which meant he could not change direction quickly. June stepped to the side. At the last second, Detmer crashed into the safety barrier, which had been properly reinforced with shock-absorbing materials. "Careful," June called out. "Those barriers are there for your protection." Detmer spun around and attacked again. This time he swung his claws in a wide arc that would have cut a normal human in half. June ducked under the swing and noticed something interesting. The warlord's crystal armor was beautiful, but it had gaps at the joints where the pieces connected. Those gaps would be weak points. But instead of attacking, June pointed at one of the gaps. "Your armor has some loose connections," he said. "That could be dangerous. Do you want me to help you tighten them?" Detmer stopped, mid-attack. "What?" "The joint at your left shoulder. It's not seated properly. If it comes loose during combat, you could get hurt." The warlord looked down at his shoulder. June was right. The armor piece was slightly loose. But how had this small human noticed something that he had missed? Yes, it is loose," Detmer admitted. "Here, let me fix that," June said, walking over. Safety first. He reached up and adjusted the crystal armor piece, making sure it was properly secured. The Chimera stood perfectly still, too confused to move. Around the ring, every creature watching, human and Vorthok alike, stared in amazement. In the middle of a death match, the human had stopped to help his opponent fix his equipment. "There," June said, stepping back. "That should hold better now. You... Helped me," Detmer said slowly. "Of course, faulty equipment is dangerous. I couldn't let you fight with broken armor. Someone could get seriously injured." For the first time in his life, Warlord Detmer felt something other than anger or hunger or the joy of conquest. He felt grateful. This human, who should have been his enemy, had helped him. Not because he had to, but because it was the safe thing to do. "Why?" Detmer asked. "Why did you help me?" "'Cause it's my job," June said simply. I'm an engineer. I fix things that are broken. Your armor was broken, so I fixed it." The simplicity of it broke something inside this mind. All his life, he had believed that the universe was about the strong taking from the weak. But this human helped others just because it was his job. "I do not understand humans," Detmer said quietly. "That's okay," June replied. "Most people don't understand engineers either. We just like to make sure things work properly." Dr. Nara was recording everything on her medical scanner. What she saw amazed her. Detmer's stress levels were dropping. His aggressive brain patterns were changing to something more like curiosity. The fight continued, but it was different now. Detmer still attacked, but he seemed more interested in testing June than in killing him. And June continued to treat the whole thing like a technical problem. When Detmer's energy weapons overheated, June showed him how to adjust the power settings for better efficiency. When the warlord's footing became unstable, June pointed out that the floor was slippery and suggested they add some grip tape. "You are the strangest warrior I have ever fought," Detmer said during a break in the action. "I'm not a warrior," June corrected. "I'm a maintenance technician. I don't fight things. I fix them. Fix them. Sure, everything breaks eventually. Machines, systems, relationships. My job is to figure out why they're broken and make them work again." So that Schmer thought about this. The Vorthok way was to destroy things that were broken and take new things. But humans tried to fix what was broken. "Can you fix the Vorthok?" he asked suddenly. June considered the question seriously. "What's wrong with the Vorthok?" "We only know how to destroy. They have conquered many worlds, but we do not know what to do with them. We are always hungry, but we are never satisfied." Sounds like a resource management problem, June said. Maybe you're using an inefficient system. What you need is better organization. Around the ring, Vorthok warriors were listening to every word. Their supreme leader was asking a human for management advice. Hunter Velthor stepped forward. Warlord, perhaps we should listen to the human. You want to learn from them? Ikmer asked. They have something we do not, Velthar said. They're not afraid. They solve problems instead of just breaking things. Maybe... maybe we could learn to do that too. The other Vorthok warriors murmured their agreement. They were tired of endless war. They were tired of always being angry and hungry and afraid that someone stronger would come along. Vekmer looked around at his warriors, then back at June. Will you teach us? The warlord asked. Teach you what? June replied. How to be like humans? How to fix things instead of breaking them? June thought about it. Well, first we'd need to set up a proper training program. Safety seminars, basic. Engineering courses, maybe some management workshops. It would take a while. We have time, Nekmer said. We have nothing but time. And so, in a cargo bay on a remote mining station, the galaxy's most feared predators became the galaxy's most eager students. 6 months later, the galaxy was a very different place. Admiral Yuki stood on the bridge of her flagship, reading reports that would have seemed impossible a year ago. The Vorthok Dominion had officially disbanded. In its place was something called the Vorthok Engineering Cooperative. Status report from Outpost 47. A communications officer announced. The main screen showed the mining station, but it looked nothing like before. New sections had been built using both human and Vorthok technology. The bioships that had once brought terror now brought construction, materials, and eager workers. In the station's main conference room, June was teaching his afternoon safety seminar. His students were 15 Vorthok warriors, each 12 feet. Tall and taking careful notes. Remember, June said, pointing to a diagram on the wall, proper lifting technique is important. Even if you're strong enough to lift anything, you can still hurt your back if you do it wrong. Warlord Dekamar raised his massive hand. He was wearing a bright orange safety vest that said student on the back. Question, Dekamar said. If the object weighs more than our lifting limit? Good question, June replied. That's when you use mechanical assistance. Cranes, pulleys, anti-gravity lifts, need tools make the job safer and easier. Hunter Velthar was taking notes on a tablet designed for his large claws. But we are strong enough to lift heavy things without tools. Just because you can doesn't mean you should, June explained. Smart work is better than hard work. Why strain yourself when a machine can do it better? This was the lesson that had changed everything. The Vorthok had always believed that strength meant doing everything the hard way. But humans showed them. That intelligence meant finding easier ways to do things. Captain Hannah, now promoted to station administrator, walked into the room carrying a stack of certificates. Congratulations, she announced. You've all passed your basic safety training. You're now certified for Level 1 engineering work. The massive crystal warriors cheered like children getting good grades. They had never experienced the satisfaction of learning something new before. Dekamar stood up to receive his certificate. 6 months ago, he had been the most feared being in the galaxy. Now he was proudly showing off his completion certificate for workplace safety fundamentals. What's next? He asked eagerly. Advanced mechanical systems, June said. We'll learn about hydraulics, electrical circuits, and computer programming. The former warlord's eyes lit up. He discovered that learning was more exciting than conquering. Building things was more satisfying than destroying them. After the seminar, June walked through the station's expanded sections. The new areas were amazing examples of human Vorthok cooperation. Human engineering was practical and efficient. Vorthok biotechnology was organic and adaptive. Together, they created systems that were both reliable and alive. In Section C, Dr. Nara was running her xenopsychology research lab. She was studying how different species could work together. Her research was being used across the galaxy to help other former enemies become friends. How are the integration studies going? June asked. Credible results, Dr. Nara replied. We've discovered that most galactic conflicts happen because species don't understand each other. The Vorthok thought everyone was weak because they saw fear as weakness, but humans showed them that caution is actually intelligence. In the communications center, Officer Day was coordinating with dozens of worlds. The news of the Vorthok transformation had spread everywhere. Other species were asking for help with their own conflicts. "We've got requests from 17 different systems," Day reported. Everyone wants human mediators to help solve their problems. This was the unexpected result of the Outpost 47 incident. Humanity had become famous not for military strength, but for their ability to solve problems that seemed impossible. The Centaurians had ended their war with the Helix Federation after human negotiators showed them how to share resources instead of fighting over them. The Stellar Collective had reformed their entire government based on human management principles. Security Chief Minho was now Director of Interspecies Relations. His job was to train other species in human-style problem solving. "It's amazing," he told June. "Once you teach people to look for solutions instead of someone to blame, conflicts just ... disappear." In the engineering bay, Technician Kai was working with a team of Vorthok apprentices on a new project. They were building a communications relay that would connect distant parts of the galaxy. Humans designed the framework, one apprentice explained to a visitor. "We grow the biological components. Together, we create something neither species could build alone." That evening, there was a celebration in the main hall. It was Thesmer's graduation day. He had completed all the basic engineering courses and was receiving his full certification. The ceremony was attended by representatives from dozens of worlds. Many of them had once been victims of Vorthok raids. They came to congratulate their former enemy on his achievements. 6 months ago, Thesmer said in his speech, "I thought strength meant making others afraid. I thought power meant taking. What I wanted, I was wrong." He looked over at June, who was sitting in the front row wearing his everyday work clothes. "The humans taught me that real strength is helping others. Real power is solving problems. I spent 1,000 years destroying things, but I learned more in 6 months of building things." The crowd applauded. His former enemies were now friends. Former victims were now partners. After the ceremony, June was walking back to his quarters. When Nekmar caught up with him, "June," the former warlord said, "I have a question." "What's that?" "Do you ever think about what would have happened if you had been afraid of us?" June considered this. "Probably would have been a much shorter conversation. You would have scared me, I would have run away, and you would have destroyed the station. But you were not afraid." "I was too busy thinking about the water filters," June admitted. "Hard to be scared when you're worried about people getting sick from bad water." The Nepper laughed. It was a sound that had never existed before, a Vorthok laughing with genuine happiness instead of cruel satisfaction. "It's very human," he said, worrying about water filters while facing cosmic horror. "Someone has to worry about the practical stuff," June replied. "Cosmic horror doesn't fix itself." A year later, the Galactic Council established the Human Approach Protocol for resolving conflicts. Instead of military action, they sent teams of human engineers, administrators, and safety inspectors to trouble spots. The results were remarkable. War between species dropped by 90%. Trade increased dramatically. Scientific cooperation flourished. June was offered medals, promotions, and honors from across the galaxy. Turned them all down, preferred to stay at Outpost 47. Teaching safety seminars and fixing things that were broken, but the station had become much more than a mining operation. It was now the Galactic Center for Practical Problem Solving. Students came from every corner of known space to learn human-style engineering and conflict resolution. On a typical day, June might teach hydraulics to a class of crystal warriors, help a team of gaseous beings understand electrical circuits, or mediate a dispute between mechanical and organic life. Forms over proper maintenance procedures, the galaxy had learned that. Humanity's greatest export was not technology or resources. It was perspective. It's the ability to look at any problem, no matter how scary or impossible, and ask the simple question, how do we fix this? And in his small office filled with safety manuals and maintenance schedules, June continued doing what he had always done. He fixed things that were broken, kept systems running smoothly, and made sure everyone followed proper safety procedures. He just had a much bigger workplace now. The last entry in his daily log read, "Completed safety inspection of Vorthok bioship. Docking systems. Minor hydraulic leak in Bay 7 fixed." Deckmer asked about advanced welding certification, scheduled him for next month's course. Station running at optimal efficiency. All systems normal. For June, it was just another ordinary day at the office. For the galaxy. It was proof that sometimes the most extraordinary solutions come from the most ordinary people doing their jobs, with care, attention, and an unshakable belief that every problem has a solution if you think about it long enough.